can, your top 5 O-State players.
Oh, man. Top 5 of all time, or did I play with?
That you play with.
Oh, did I play with? Okay. Oh, whoa, that's tough, man. The year I got drafted, we had 5 guys going to top 10. So that's tough. I will say.
All right, what's good, everybody? It's your host, Pernell. I'm back here with the 365 Podcast. Today I got a special guest, Cardale Jones. How you feeling?
Good, man. Thanks for having me, man. I know we tried to hook up a few times, and I'm glad, today was able to make it work.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I appreciate you for coming on the show. So first off, I just want to give everybody a background, tell you about your upbringing and how you kind of got into football.
Yeah. So first and foremost, man, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio, and kind of inner city, east side inner city is always it's always been rough in the east side inner city, just like any major city, inner city around the country, right? And athletics was one of the things that was kind of a way to stay away from some of the negative things around Cleveland. And football became kind of one of the things that I pretty much latched onto early. I played other sports, football, basketball, baseball, ran track, freaking soccer, swim. So any and everything my mom tried to do to pretty much keep us, active and pretty much out the streets. And football, kind of fell in love with it probably my junior year in high school, when I really saw that I can potentially take this to the next level and be my way for bigger and better opportunities, not just in the sport, but just in life, period. And stuck with it, had opportunity to go to the Ohio State University, play for a great coach, play with some great players, had opportunity to be a part of the national championship team, and spent a few years in NFL, and then through experiencing with football, opened up so many different doors for me, so many different opportunities, especially at a place like Ohio State, when the networking opportunity is limitless there. So many great people you run across and become friends with outside of your sport. Just being part of Buckeye Nation has definitely helped shape and mold my life in the direction of life after football.
That's great. And I know you were saying how you did all the different sports growing up, and once you finally knew football was for you and what you want to do, what made you play quarterback? Because you're a tall guy, about 6'4", you could have played receiver or anything.
Man, I was too lazy to play receiver. I'm telling you that right now. I wasn't going to be the type that's going to run hard every play. No, I'm not going to get the ball.
Right.
So, little league football, I played offensive line, and I know going into high school, I was a tall, skinny kid. I knew I wasn't going to be an offensive lineman or defensive lineman in high school. I'm like, I get buried. I get crumpled up. I went into high school probably 150, as a freshman, and tall and slim. And I'm just like, you know what? I actually wasn't even going to play high school football, because football, I really didn't fall in love with it like that until really going into my junior year. I was going to stick with basketball and baseball. I love baseball, still my favorite sport. I played pitcher. And going into my freshman year of high school, all of my buddies who I grew up with who played football, they were getting ready to play, freshman ball, JV football for our school, Glenville. And I was just like, you know what, this will be my opportunity. If I stick to Little League again, I'll be the man down here. One of my Little League coaches, he's the one actually who saw out for me to be a quarterback. And he kind of shaped my mindset to potentially being a quarterback. And I'm just like, dude, he must be crazy. I played offensive line for the past 6 years of Little League. I'm not going to go from that to quarterback. But he saw something in me. He clearly saw me throw a baseball. I played pitcher and first base, and figured I could sling a football. And I was like, you know what? Let me try this quarterback thing out on a Little League level before I try to do it at the high school level to see if I like it. And I remember going into that summer of my 9th grade year, my buddies was getting ready for a ball in high school, and I was, getting ready for a ball in Little League again. And just hearing all the smack they used to talk to me, like, oh, man, you tripping, blah, blah, blah. And all that stuff. I'm like, well, I really don't care. My sport's going to be basketball and baseball anyway.
Right.
And it took my Uncle Tony, actually, to really, I think he was in the Navy up until that point, maybe 6 or 7 years, was in the Navy. And he was back on a recruiting trip. And Coach Giantegan, who's the head football coach in Glenville, he grew up with my family very closely. And knew about me somewhat, not just potentially being a quarterback, just knew about me. Like, why is he not down here? Why is he not practicing? Why is he not getting ready to play for Glenville? And that kind of got back to my Uncle Tony, and I remember just hanging out at home, and my Uncle Tony pulled up in his recruited Navy van and took me down to Glenville. Like, listen, man, you got to meet Coach Ginn, be with all your boys, you got to compete. Like, come on, dude, like, forget the little league stuff. This is, bigger and better. Trying to get me to see the opportunities that, being around that program, playing for that program could potentially do for me and change my life. So he's the one that kind of almost forced me to kind of play high school ball, at least my freshman year, and I kind of never looked back since.
And I know, like you were saying, you got that push and to go to Ohio State. Were they more so in your ear to go to that bigger D1 route, or was it more so just to get you in the right direction?
It was more so get you in the right direction, more so of having an opportunity to experience different things, having an opportunity to get away from the inner city of Cleveland, no matter what it might have been. As clearly I went into high school as a freshman, not really knowing my right from left when it came to football, and I just knew I wasn't going to be a quarterback. I mean, a lineman, right? And when Coach Ginn also saw me potentially being a quarterback, I think those conversations naturally start to happen of like, okay, listen, through hard work, dedication, sacrifice, you can be something, right? It was never about you can go to Ohio State, you can get away from this and make, the best opportunities in your life. And I'd say this, a lot of times Ohio State wasn't even my favorite school growing up. I'm not going to say what school was, but it wasn't my favorite school growing up, so it was never like my dream. I was going to go to Glenville, go to Ohio State, even though I saw a lot of guys take that route, as in Tig and Junior, Dante Whitner, Troy Smith, a lot of other great guys who went through the Glenville program, who also had opportunity to perform at a high level at Ohio State. But that just wasn't the route that I kind of saw for myself. I'm just like, let me play football, see where it leads to, or let me play sports, see where it leads to, and hopefully bigger and better opportunities.
And when you got to Ohio State, was it like a surreal moment? Like, I'm really here, I'm really on campus, suiting up?
Yeah, I think the route I took to get there was, not your typical normal route to get to a university. And I think so many things happened in that transition from my high school career to college. I mean, I was recruited by a guy named Jim Trussell, and in the midst of me reporting to campus, reporting to college, he resigned. Ohio State was under these huge scandals and regulations and all this stuff. So I was walking into a situation. I grew to love this coaching staff. I grew to love this university, and I really saw myself being here. I walked into a situation where pretty much almost blindfolded because we had a new coaching staff, new system of offense, which I personally wasn't accustomed to. I personally wasn't a fan of when it came to some of the things they did with the quarterback. And just a whole different dynamic than I looked forward to walking into through the 2.5, 3 years of how they recruited me out of high school. So that was more the surreal moment versus going into that atmosphere and seeing all these top guys from around the country. Everyone's good. Being on your own for the first time really in your life as a young college student. No one is forcing you to go to class. No one is, your mom is not waking you up for school and things like that. So my real surreal moment came with the changes in the staff and the people I really grew to have a relationship with versus the dynamic of just being a college student, let alone an athlete.
And then speaking of Ohio State, I know they just came off of that loss to
Heartbreaker.
How did you feel? I saw your tweet about it. Like it was a great game, and
yeah, it was definitely a great game. I enjoy going to bowl games more because it really allows me to be a fan. Like when I go to Ohio State games, at home games, it's more almost business-ish environment and things like that, and kind of entertaining. But bowl games, man, I really let my hair down and really enjoy it, really cheering, really getting into it, and just being a diehard fan and supporter because I know what these guys been through, I know what these guys are going through, and hopefully you want them to have some of the success you did, right, as a player. But yeah, it was tough. It was a heartbreaker, surrounded by some great Georgia fans, some great Ohio State fans, and they are just as passionate about the Bulldogs as we are about the Buckeyes. So it made for great back and forth all game in the stands. And I remember I think Georgia called a timeout right before the last field goal, and the fans, we all exchanged words like, no matter what, guys, good game. We enjoy hanging out, cheering, and all that other stuff. So that was pretty cool, and you get to meet some cool people in those type of atmospheres. But we just came up 1 point short.
Yeah. That game. I was probably like on the edge of my seat almost the whole time because it was so.
Yeah, imagine being there. And shouts out to Mercedes-Benz Stadium, the nicest stadium I've ever been in my life. It was ridiculous and a great place to host an event like that.
And I know you have that big game experience. Like, for example, going against Alabama and winning that national championship. Was there any like butterflies in your stomach leading up to that moment? I know you had experience in winning those games before that. Like, how was the locker room kind of surrounded for you?
I think once you get to that stage of a career, not just athletics, but that stage of a career where you had to perform at a high level, every career, no matter what it may be, it's not going to require you to perform at an extremely high level every day or every time it's time to put up or shut up. And I think, once you get to that point, because you've been doing it for so long, the nerves and the butterflies that go away, it's just more anxious to get it started, right? Anxious to get it going instead of the nerves of, we use the word butterfly such as a negative interpretation, especially in sports. It's the anxiousness, the nerve to kind of get this game started, right? And I remember actually a game before that, we played in the Big Ten championship game, and we were just so amped up. This was going into the first ever college football, well, a week from that. Well, no, 2-3 days from that was going to be the last college football rankings for the top 4 teams. And this was the first time ever the college football went to this structure. And we were just so anxious because we was right on the outside looking in. I think we were number 6 going into that game. And, we were just like, what? We are one of the top 4 teams in the country.
Right.
I wouldn't say we was looking ahead of that, but we was looking to go out there and prove it. And I think those ages, if you go back and watch that game and some of the clips, like the freaking, I don't even know what you call those guys that hold the team back and the coaches back before they run on the field because they probably playing some type of promo on TV. And they got, a headset in their ear saying, okay, you can let a team out. And I remember we were just so anxious to get out. And we almost trampled this guy. Right? And it was just funny to think about because it's like, that feeling can be kind of compared a little bit to that nervousness, that butterflies feeling.
Right.
But it's just like, let me get this going. Let me hit somebody. Like, let's go.
So, like, when you first got that first completion, it was all...
For sure. My thing was always to kind of get that, because that feeling is hard to maintain. That feeling is hard to bottle up. And you don't want that feeling to take over. Right? You don't want that feeling to freaking almost black you out and almost do things against your character, right? Or do things against the game plan. And my thing has always been this: either with me, the first play game, I have to take a deep shot, roll out, or I got to run the ball. I got to get hit. I got to take that pop. Now, okay, win the game, right? And then, needless to say, ours was a rollout pass, and we completed it, and the rest is history. We beat them 59-0.
And what was it like for you transitioning from college to the pros? I know you went through the NFL, did some CFL, now you're with the Massachusetts.
So I think the biggest thing was, I think it was the aspect of everything you're doing now is for the betterment of your job, right? With college, you're a student athlete, and by far, student is first because you have so many obligations outside of football.
Right.
And you got your classes, you got your tutors, you got study halls, you got academic advisors. So there's a lot of things that come with being a student athlete. And it's sometimes, especially as young student athletes, it's hard to maintain and find that balance of school, studying, getting help in whatever aspects you need when it comes to that, on top of practice, studying, and getting extra work in and getting help. So it's a thin line. Then also, you're still an 18 and 20-year-old kid, and you still want to enjoy your life, right? It's not like you want to be cooped up and things like that, and there's always some opportunities to just grow and learn about who you are as a person. I mean, NFL is completely different. Once you're done with meetings or whatever the case may be, if you're in there at 7 to 4 to 5 o'clock, everything is no like, okay, I got to go to tutoring now. Okay, I got to go to, lecture or something like that now. It's, okay, what are you doing, right? Because you're playing with the best of the best. What are you doing to continue to try to separate yourself from there?
Right.
So every little thing you're doing is for one aspect, not being a student athlete of school and football. Is literally ball 24/7.
Yeah.
So I think that was the biggest transitional kind of thing. I wouldn't say I struggled with, but I kind of looked forward to, that has been all about ball 24/7.
And is there anything that you feel like you wish you would have done differently? Because I know we learn from our mistakes, but we always,
In a lead, I would say just overall through that aspect of my life, not really. I do feel like I took advantage of each and every opportunity that I had to be a part of teams, to be a part of organizations, And I think, you know, I explain this to my buddies all the time when we sit back and look at different guys, in particular the football world, or why careers pan out or why careers don't pan out. You're like, man, I played with this guy in college. He was so good.
Right.
I'd have never thought he would have did this, blah, 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 whatever. It's so much luck, timing is in place with all that stuff. People have no idea. Mm-hmm. Just getting drafted or being a part of the right program, the right system, no matter what position you are, the right system is really going to help you. Mm-hmm. You look at a guy like, and this is no knock on Russell Wilson because he's still one of my favorite quarterbacks, but you look at a guy like his first probably 6 to 8 years in Seattle before they start changing coordinators and guys start moving on, because clearly, you know, coordinators, when they start having success, they have an opportunity to be head coaches.
Exactly.
That system that they tailored for Russell, he rarely would drop back and deliver the ball from the pocket, right? They let him be creative. They let him get out, move in the pocket, and they tailored it to his skill set. And now you look at him this past season with Denver, and he's dropped back almost, you know, like the top 5 in the league for us, literally design, drop back plays, deliver the ball downfield. I mean, he's a shorter guy. Not saying he's impossible, he can't do it, but that's really not his game, right? And then you wonder why he struggles so much. And I'm pretty sure there's other factors of why he maybe struggled. But then you look at guys who have an opportunity to perform because of other injuries. You look at guys who have an opportunity to perform because they get traded, or, you know, a new coordinator come into town. I mean, Daniel Jones is another one, right? They were just talking about this kid is going to be done and things like that, and he get his 4th season, I think it is. He get a coordinator that really want to maximize his ability and really trying to tailor things that what he do really well, and that ain't in playoffs.
Right, exactly.
And it's a different story.
Right.
Yeah, so it's so much luck and timing and who you know plays into all of that. That's what I wish I'd had more kind of those situations play out on my side. I got drafted to the Buffalo Bills. You know, they was dealing with already their own internal issues or concerns with the quarterback thing with Tyrod Taylor, EJ Manuel, and our head coach and GM didn't see eye to eye, so something was going to change, you know, and they ended up firing our head coach. My first year, we went through 2 coordinators and a head coach, and we lost as many games. I know it's NFL, everybody good, but we lost as many games as I lost in my whole football career in 1 year. You know, so that puts some things in perspective too, of how good this league is. But coordinator get fired, head coach get fired, going to the last game of the season. Don't look like they're going to re-sign our 2 quarterbacks. I was the 3rd guy. I'm like, man, this offseason is going to be huge for me if they don't re-sign Tyrod. I know they're not going to re-sign EJ. EJ going to have opportunities elsewhere. I can at least be the backup and start to solidify myself, right? That's my mindset I'm going into this offseason with. It's like, at worst, I'm going to be the backup, right? And then, you know, you fire the head coach, bring in a new coach, bring in a new GM, and now they want to bring in their own guys.
Right.
So I spent 1 year with the Bills, and by the time I was in my 2nd NFL camp, the new GM, the new coach traded everybody that the old GM drafted last year. Everybody was gone. My whole draft class was traded by the time my first day of camp, my 2nd year, because we wasn't their guys. You know, the things they wanted to do probably didn't fit some of us, so they brought in their own guys.
I feel like a lot of coaches do that now too with college football and with the transfer portal. Like,
especially with transfer portal in college. You look at Lincoln Riley. No, is it? Yeah, Lincoln Riley, USC. Once he left Oklahoma last year, you know, his quarterback left with him. That's the guy who recruited him. So I'm out of here. You know, and Oklahoma is a top program in the country. I forgot what bowl game they won that past year, but they were doing good. But the quarterback left with him, and all those recruits flipped and went with his guy, right? So, especially on the NFL level, you have a lot of that of who you know type of deal, right? And you look at guys, especially in the quarterback position, like Chase Daniels, Colt McCoy, I don't know, other long-time, you know, backup guys, or Ryan Fitzmagic. You know, I keep calling him Fitzmagic, it's Fitzpatrick, but you know, people like, man, he played for so many teams, and like, because he's smart. And he played for so many coordinators, maybe 3 or 4 coordinators. These coordinators keep getting jobs. So you're going to look at the people they know who know their system.
Exactly.
Right? So all of that plays an effect, especially at a quarterback, especially at a young quarterback. The lead is a lead that continue to get younger. It's not a lead that have many opportunities for a lot of people to have second chances, but then you also have people, like I said before, there's 3 names I mentioned who play for, probably 7 or 8 different teams, but really only like 3 or 4 different coaches because they keep getting recycled.
Right. And what's that process like when it might not work out for you, like with a certain team, like, or what's that conversation like? Is it
It's simple. I mean, your head coach and usually call you in the office. Maybe it's with the GM as well. I know that when it happens after camp, it's usually the GM then the head coach, and then they just let's know, hey, we're going a different direction, or we're going to trade you, or we're going to release you, or we're going to waive you, whatever the scenario may be.
right?
And clearly, those people's jobs are to put that organization the best light possible, put the best 53 men on a roster to give them opportunity to win ultimately a Super Bowl. And whatever reasons that one of those 53 may not be you, it's not always necessarily you.
Right, it's just business.
Exactly, it's just business, and like that's one thing where, my last year with the Chargers, it was kind of a mutual split because, I feel like, they drafted a quarterback that I felt that was 10 times better than. And then we were going camp and we was looking for a backup because Phillip Rivers, he was our guy.
Right.
And I remember going into that camp, the most confident I ever went into as a football player, period. It was my second year. It was my first time being in a system for consecutive years. So it wasn't like my first time with the Bills, I had to learn the system. Then the coach got fired. Going into my second season with the Bills, I had to learn the system because the new coach would bring their own system in. And now and then I get traded to LA. Now I got to relearn another system the same year. Then I go to my second off season with LA. Now I'm trying to really master the system because no one is really teaching you, especially during the season. I mean, focusing on game planning. So going into that off season, I'm just like, man, I really feel confident enough that I can say like, I can operate the line of scrimmage. I can do everything in my power to make a play successful, right? Throw it all on my plate. Like I wanted to get to a level where Phillip Rivers was, right?
Right.
And Phil was so impressive, and each scenario, each play, each situation is broke down into its own game plan. So if we are playing the Cleveland Browns and we know they like to do certain things on 3rd and short, when the play is coming in through our headset, through our helmets, from the sideline, Phil was so good at studying the playbook. He's done it at that point 16, 17, 18 years. He was so good at studying the game plan and knowing what the defense was trying to do to him, while the coach is calling out the personnel in this situation, because he already know about the situation, Phil can probably start calling the play.
All right.
Just by knowing what personnel, because we worked this throughout the week and he studied it. And that was the point I was trying to get at, right? And I'm just like, I love this, right? This guy is so smart. You're like, he's going to be prepared for every situation. And then another great example about Phil, I remember he was getting ready to play the Texans, and they just had this new D coordinator that Phil played against X amount of years ago when the Chargers was in San Diego. So old, like when we watched the film, like it was all grainy. It was so old. But we were trying to figure out when they ran this certain front, when were guys blitzing and when were guys dropping out, because it looked the exact same. And that was a big time situation because it was 3rd and short, or it was in goal line, or in the red zone. Like, we need to convert plays on these things. These can be game-changing situations.
Right.
And we, over the last 2 to 3 years, we go back and watch film. We can't find it. So Phil was okay. Where was he at? His first stint, because the coach to that point did 3 years. His last 3 years were with the Texans, but he didn't coach for like 10 years for whatever reason. So he went back. Phil went to film all the way to 15 years prior to find the same structure, because coaches don't change. They run their stuff forever.
Yeah, exactly.
To find the same structure versus the same look we would get them, and he's running this defense, and he found that small tail. And it was literally because of one of the 3 techniques the defensive lineman had, one of their hands down because of the way they had to drop. It was crazy. Like little things like that, like makes him why he's going to go out as a Hall of Famer, and little things like that was the things I was trying to get to. And mind you, playing that game, 60 minutes, they didn't run it one time, but he was going to be prepared for it.
Right.
So that's the point I feel like I was getting to, where I'm going into my last offseason with the Chargers, going into that camp, and they drafted a quarterback, which I was like, whatever, like competition's competition. But once I saw some of my opportunities be limited, because that's when I started to feel a type of way, like, dude, I'm killing it. Like, don't get me wrong, he's young and he's gonna be, I think he's gonna be really good one day. But that ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm killing it right now.
Right.
So don't limit my opportunities. And I remember talking to our head coach Anthony Lynn at the time about, I'm just like, man, like, you guys keep telling me I'm doing really well and all this other stuff, but I'm not getting more opportunities. How am I being evaluated? I just want to know, because I'm like, I don't want to be blindsided if I get cut or something like this. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? I'm completing over 90% of my passes in practice and including games in preseason time. So, I just want to make sure he's on the same page. And he was brutally honest with me. He was like, we drafted Easton, I think his name was. Can't remember. Sticks. Yeah, we drafted Sticks, and our GM liked him, want to see what he can do, give him opportunities and things like that. So we're being fair to him, still trying to be fair to you. And it's okay, cool. Well, if that's the case, I think that I'd rather probably have a better opportunity elsewhere, right? And I remember going through the last cut day, and we had that conversation again. I was like, I think it's just beneficial. We both thought we just part ways. Like, yeah, because we try to get trade value for you, but we don't want to trade you in conference because all our stuff, and stuff like that. So it's so much goes into like the business side of moving players and why players do this versus this and cutting. So it's a lot more complicated than, we don't think you can play.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people like looking on the outside end, they're like, he wasn't good or this
exactly.
And it's definitely not that at all. And I know going into like the more personal side, more business side, back in April, you established the foundation, which is a charitable organization that provides direct financial support like through the NIL. So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the foundation is a foundation nonprofit that me and my buddy Brian Schottenstein started, and is the new change in the world of college athletics. They can get paid now through marketing deals. They call them NIL, name, image, and likeness. So we created a organization to help athletes capitalize on their name, image, and likeness by partnering them up with our charitable partners. In a way, it's super simple that we take in donations, we fundraise, we host events, and we're able to directly do deals with players to help shed light, to help shed their name, image, and likeness on some of our charitable partners. So if it's going through some of our charitable partners events, and then the cool thing about it as well, we're almost like the third party that really handles the charitable partners and kind of reaching out to athletes and getting things done, because nothing is stopping them, and some have done them. Like, hey, we're going to pretty much pay your fee, what you'd have to pay an athlete, a celebrity, influencer to come to one of your events. We're going to handle that for you guys, and also you guys can make money at your events to continue to raise money for your cause, right? So if they was hosting an event and they want to, some of the athletes we have deals with to come, they just reach out to us, and making sure it's clearly not a conflict of interest or a conflict of schedule with our athletes, and they just show up to the events, they hang out, they have dialogue, whatever type of event it may be. And the great thing about our student athletes, love getting involved with our communities already. So it's kind of win-win on all parts of it, on all aspects. So something exciting and something that is much needed in the world of college athletics for a place like Ohio State, and it's pretty fun too.
And so, like, is it, for example, some rare occasion, say if one of your guys left or want to go to the school, would that deal still stay, or is it like everything through the school? So
technically, we don't work for the school, and,
okay.
and one aspect in our contracts is that the student athletes has to be living in a 35-mile radius of Columbus, of our headquarters. Because another thing, like, we try to shed the maximum light on our charitable partners, right? And all our charitable partners are really much Central Ohio based.
Okay.
And the way we work that in our contracts is to protect everybody involved, because athletes isn't going to probably bring as much value to one of our charitable partners who, like I said, is Central Ohio really based, with them, with their brand pertaining to another university, right? So if a company if one of our partners say, hey, fans or people or supporters come out and see, Joe Blow from Michigan, you think they're going to have a big following? Probably not.
No.
So it allows us to really tweak their brands and really tap into the Ohio State brand as well. Because like I said, we don't work for Ohio State. That's the cool thing about it. So, but we kind of, even though all of our focus and energy and efforts is tailored for their players, you know, in football and basketball program, but we don't actually work for the university.
Okay. And then I know you have a book coming out. Tap into that a little bit.
Yeah, don't know the title yet. Actually, me and my co-author Bill Urbanovich out of Columbus just finished it up and got it over to our editor, and it's going to be out here this fall. And it's just really, it started as a project for me. Just, you know, my first year out of ball because of COVID, I was just had so much free time on my hands. You know, free time I never had in my life. So I was just like, you know what, let me just start writing.
Okay,
and
so this has been in the works.
Yeah, and it started off as a free time, spare time, just talk about my college experience. And then as I got deeper into typing and talking about it, I'm like, wow, I really went through a lot.
Right.
Like, you know, I had a really interesting career, and, you know, from the ups and downs and some of the personal things that people don't know that I was going through on the back end of some of the things. And, you know, usually with the college athletics and athletics period, people only see, you know, the highs of the athletes and things like that. And I think my story is more relatable to the average student athlete than the person who's going to be highly recruited, go in there, have success at the university right away, and go on to do great things, right? And if I can also, you know, the goal is to also use this as kind of motivation as well. I don't think nothing was extra special about me to get through some of the things I went through, and I think as, you know, will help the next potentially struggling athlete or person, period, you know, really say, okay, man, this person went through this, they can get through it, I know I can, or this is some great tools and tips that's going to help me battle through adversity and things like that. So it started off as a time at Ohio State, and then my publishers kind of convinced me to do kind of a soft autobiography. So
okay, yeah, that's great. And then I know earlier we talked about like the great players that have come through Glenville, like Tegan Jr., Frank Clark, Marshawn Lattimore. What is it about Glenville that makes that program like that great pipeline through Ohio State and the other schools?
I think that you look at a lot of players like that, and I played with two of the guys you just named. We all shared the same kind of struggles. We all shared the same kind of upbringings, and we all kind of had the same visions of what we wanted out of our lives. I think not necessarily the aspect of Glenville is the entity of that. I mean, it did help that they already had a great track record of a phenomenal football, track, basketball program, and then Coach Tegan Sr., his track record speaks for itself when it comes to not just being a great coach, but a great leader in the community. And I think we all saw that as like, okay, man, if these guys can do it, I know we can.
So extra motivation.
Yeah, exactly. And then we were all always so competitive with each other growing up, and Marshawn's a few years younger than us, that, you know, we wanted to do something, and our competitive drive kind of drove us even more, right? To go to a place like Glenville to compete against some of the top schools in the city. And actually, when I was in school, we used to compete around the country. But to compete with the State of Nations, the St. Ed's and Mentor, and some of these other great programs that have great track records of winning programs and dominant players and people going on to do some great things at the next level. I think that's something that we all kind of took as a personal challenge that we wanted to be on that stage as well.
And I know Glenville just won their state championship recently.
First state championship, yeah. First state championship, which is amazing. My nephew, Deshaunte Jones, the running back, was able to get to, I think I got to about 5 or 6 games this year to watch them. And the state championship clearly was one of them. And just leading up to that game that week, and, you know, I was telling him, I was like, hey, last time I was at the stadium, we lost. You know, and because my junior year, we were the number 2 team in the country. And we was actually the first Cleveland public school to win a playoff game. And we got all the way to the state championship game, lost to a team in Columbus. But if we had won that game, we not only been state champions, we went national champs in high school, which would have been amazing. But lost that game, man, heartbreaker. And then going into that week of this past state championship game, I just talked to him like, hey, man, I'm telling you right now, you know, some people, I get the question that, you know, would I trade my national championship team or trophy or ring in for a state championship? I was like, I think a lot of people will be surprised with my answer, you know, which I don't know. I don't know, because I just know what that state championship means to our community.
Right.
But it's pretty cool to be a part of it and to see him really be a critical critical aspect of that championship team and some of the other great players that they have on that team. So hopefully they can do it again and bring some more joy to Northeast Ohio.
Definitely, I was really excited. I saw those guys on the news and everything, and that was huge for the city. And lastly, before you go, if you can, your top 5 O-State players.
Oh man, top 5 of all time, or did I play with?
That you play with.
Oh, did I play with? Okay. Oh, that's tough, man. The year I got drafted, we had 5 guys going to top 10. So that's tough. I will say, in no order. I just got to give 5, but no order. I always say Ezekiel Elliott's the best player I play with, so I would give him number 1. And I think he's the best player I ever played with because of how hard he plays without the ball and how smart he is. That's the only reason why, nothing else. Clearly, he was a great athlete with the ball in his hands. Joey Bosa is up there. I'm not going to be selfish and say Denzel and Marshawn and those guys because they wasn't that great when I was there yet. They were still young, and you can tell they was going to be great. But I'll have to say Braxton Miller, J.T. Barrett, and then number 5, I will have to go with Ryan Shazier. Okay. I'll have to go with those 5 guys right there.
Okay, that's a pretty good top.
And that's tough. And that's tough. As I'm thinking about more defensive guys. I'm just like, he was a nightmare in practice, and I'd hate to play against him or and then of course linemen always get overlooked, but man, we had some great linemen that were unbelievable athletes, and that was critical parts of teams as well. But so that's hard. That's tough.
Yeah, I had to
put me on the
ask.
spot there.
But I appreciate you for coming on the show. Everybody, make sure that you go check out his new book. It is coming soon. Thank you for watching. Out.